We are in this wonderful awareness of co-creation. The realization that at any moment we are co-creating with the divine. And in German, we have a great word for that. And I thought maybe we could all learn that today. It's called Lebenskünstler. Lebenskünstler. Brilliant! Yes! Now, what does that mean? It literally translated means life artist. Life artist. And that is, beloved, what we all are. We are artists called forth to consciously co-create together, to quote Frank Smith, to consciously co-create together our experience. Now, this is always the truth. This is not new news, right? If you have come to New Vision Center or any church or center of this nature, you have heard this, yes? It's not a new news concept. And yet, I don't know about you, but this time right now reminds me a lot about March of 2020. If you remember, in March of 2020, all of us were facing a very, very different world. And I remember standing right here on the platform with nobody in front here but pictures of all of our congregants. We had them put on all of the chairs because we wanted to make sure we feel your presence, even though we couldn't be together physically. And giving a talk and saying in that talk that the divine is always right where we are, and right now it might take a little bit more effort and focus and love to really feel connected and one with it. And that is how I feel now. And what is so fascinating to me this week has been such a reminder, not quite the 2x4, but a pretty strong reminder. Karin, dear one, you are co-creating your experience. Do you ever say that to yourself with your own name, of course? Don't say it unless it's Karen Van Allen, you know, or Karen Russo. So I've been thinking a lot about, and back in 2020, I thought about that the pandemic really was like a big storm. It was a huge storm, and depending on our individual vessel in which we were weathering that storm, we had very different experiences. I knew of beloveds who were in little rowboats, and they were threatened, and their lives were threatened. And we lost a couple of members of our beloved community. And then there were individuals who weathered that storm, and it looked a little bit to me like they were on a cruise ship. My daughter being one of them. While all of that was going on in the world, it afforded her to work from home and to be with her family. And not a year later, Tom and I had 3 new grandbabies. So what I want to have us all be aware of, that then, as now, although we are experiencing a lot of the same things, like the same storm, so to speak, our individual experience of it is quite different. Do you agree? Yeah? Can you feel that? Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? It is so apparent to me when I meet individuals, when I have conversations, how differently affected individual parts of our community, of our country, are affected by it. And that brought me back to taking a look at this idea that at the very center of every human being, every sentient being, we are one in the one. We are of the divine. We are all on our individual path trying to come back to the place where we feel that oneness. And I don't know about you, but I am meeting a lot of people who are experiencing right now great confusion and also some unskilled behavior. And what I think the question for me is, how do I respond to that? How do I respond to that? And so that is what today's talk is about. As you know, we are, for the first time in the history of New Vision Center, have chosen to work with the annual theme that has been brought forth by our parent organization, Centers for Spiritual Living. So today, the annual theme is, we have it written right here, Rising Higher, Growing Deeper. And could that not be more perfect for this year? Rising Higher, Growing Deeper. And the title for today's message is, You Are Enough. The Art of Happiness. The Art of Happiness. While that initially, when I looked at it a couple of months ago, I was like, oh, great, lovely, easy talk, easy talk. Yes. And what we learn, that we can take literally anything to help us grow deeper and from there rise higher. And that is what we want to talk about today. That's what I would like to bring forth. Now, it helps me whenever I am approaching, whenever I notice that I'm getting a little, not quite triggered, but wounded up. What helps me is this practice that is called box breathing. And I think many of us know it. It is this idea that we can control our breathing for a couple of minutes, and that brings peace to our thoughts and calms us down enough to then remember what is the truth. And so I would love to do that all together. Are you up for it? All right, online? Yes, okay, I see some thumbs up. Great. So here's how it goes, rather easy. We breathe into the count of 4. We hold it on the count of 4. We exhale on the count of 4. And we remain empty for the count of 4. And we're just going to do that maybe 3 times. If it's comfortable for you, I invite you to close your eyes. And so we breathe in. We hold it. We exhale. And we remain empty. And do it again in your own rhythm. Count in for 4. Hold it. Exhale for 4. Remain empty. Let's do it one more time. And then notice how you feel. This breathing helps me to do what Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers in our faith tradition, invites us to. She says, it is our business to translate spiritual truth into visible manifestation. It is our business to bring forth the truth that we feel at the very center of our being and give it form in our lives, in our experiences. And so some of you have asked, why is there an easel here? That is what I think about every morning. Every morning I feel that this day is an opportunity for me to paint something. And that is not just for me. I believe that that is what we are called, each and every one of us. And some days, I am only picking the bright and shiny colors. And there is sunshine, and there are smiles and happy people. And other days, I notice that I'm not able to reach for those colors. You know what I mean? There are some days where the whole palette looks different. And so all of this made me think about how can I share with all of us here how I think about that, how I be kind to myself when I wake up and all that is available is gray and dark brown. And if you have taken the foundational class here or some of our other growth classes, you are probably familiar with this construct of the 4 kingdoms. I think we have a slide for that that might help you remember. There it is. Yes, I hear oh yeah, we looked at that. So this concept was developed by many spiritual teachers. It's very much used by Michael Bernard Beckwith of the Agape Center in Los Angeles. And it's a way for us to understand where we are on our own spiritual journey. It helps us understand it a little better. And I'm just going to talk briefly about these 4 stages of realization of our oneness. And you see at the bottom there where it says victim consciousness? When we are in victim consciousness, we have the sense that we are a little piece of wood on an ocean that is experiencing some high winds. These are the moments when something happens out there that has a huge effect on us, and we feel like we have no control over it. Life is random, life just happens. I am going to make a wild prediction. Each and every one of us has found themselves in that space. I'm one of them. Many, many years, I lived in that space. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until I found the New Vision Center that I realized it could be different. Until then, life felt to me that it was just something that came towards me. And then I found the center, and I learned tools. And I learned to understand that what gets me out of that victim consciousness is to release shaming and blaming. Shaming is blame inwardly, and blaming is doing it outward, like blaming somebody else. Who's at fault here? And being so concerned whose fault it was that I missed the point of my own growth. And the tools that I learned here helped me to do that, and they elevated me into this manifest consciousness. That is when we realize that we are co-creating with the divine, and we have the power to manifest princes and parking spaces and purses and whatever other good we want to bring forth in our lives. Yes? We all have learned about that. We know that, right? We know that we can do that. And the vision that I have for this manifest consciousness is it's happening by me. And I see myself spinning about 12 different plates. Exhausting. Effective. I usually have really good parking places, but exhausting. And so, what we learn then, when we want to discover a different way of being in the world, and if we are willing to release control and this idea that it has to be my way, we make that journey into the third consciousness, which is called the surrender consciousness. Now, what are we surrendering? We're surrendering this idea that I know. And we're surrendering into the greater knowingness of the divine within. And then we lift ourselves up into the fourth consciousness, the absolute realization that we are one in the one, even when outer circumstances suggest otherwise. That is the moment when we know that we are more than this bag of bones, that we are God made manifest, that we are all interconnected. To reach the fourth kingdom, we have to release the false idea of separation. The false idea that there is a them and us. And so this construct has helped me so much because, you see, we visit all of those four areas all the time, daily, I would say. Something happens, we hear something, and immediately I can feel like, and I have no control over it. But here is what helped me become conscious of where I am and to realize that for wherever I find myself, that is the place from which I am creating. It makes sense, right? If we feel powerless, a victim to all the circumstances, what we are vibrating, what we are putting forth into the law is challenging. If we feel like I have no control, and if I am finding other people to talk to them about how we have no control, that we are just at the mercy of something else, that, beloveds, is what gets put into the law of attraction, and that is what is being mirrored back to us, more evidence that it is so. That is why this teaching, this empowered teaching, is so challenging when we are in that victim consciousness. And yet, that is when most of us find a teaching like this. You know? There's a saying, we are either pulled by a vision or pushed by discomfort. That is so great that we feel like there has to be a different way. And so, what do we do with this? My hope, my deepest wish is that each one of us finds some construct that helps us to realize, oh, this is what's happening. I am responding to whatever happened. I'm feeling like I have no say in this thing called life. And it behooves me to get into my prayer chair. It is not a choice that I can afford not to take. We have to awake to where we are on this spectrum so that we can know what to do in order to change, to bring forth the change that we are yearning for. And so this week, there were a couple moments, couple mornings that I woke up and I looked at my palette to create, and it was pretty dark. It had the browns and the grays and a little bit of black mixed in there. And so I asked myself, what is mine to do now to change this? Because I understand how this thing called life works. At least I think I do. And I know that if I put forth those colors that I want to attract more of, I have to be very aware of what my core values are, and I have to be willing to stand for them. And then I'm aware when something is a little off and I'm not connected to them. This is a time, beloveds, where it is not just essential that we know what we stand for, who we are, our core principles, but that we are willing to take a stand for that in the world. You know, this talk is not one of those, here's the challenge, here's some spiritual tools, and there's the answer. This is a talk that asks of each one of us to be brave enough to take a look at where am I on this upward spiraling of my own conscious evolution. And what would support me now? Because it is always, always the truth that there's a place within us that is whole and perfect and complete, and that we are the divine made manifest. And what does it take for me to understand that and to live this day from that place? I think we have an affirmation that I think we want to bring forth. And let's say that together. I embrace the wonder of life, knowing that I'm enough. Again, I embrace the wonder of life, knowing. I embrace the wonder of life, knowing I am enough, even if I find myself in that victim consciousness. If we believe this with our whole being, we will pipe up and say, okay, I am enough. I know I am enough. What can I do right now that I am in a place where I can radiate that out from me? And there it is, beloveds, right there. What we talk about every Sunday. Actually doing our daily substantial spiritual practice. Taking time to commune with the divine. Knowing that who we are is enough. The invitation for this week is truly for each and every one of us to find those tools. To ask ourselves, how can I support myself? Which might be reaching out to a beloved, to a practitioner, to a minister, to a friend. It might be sitting in silence and really with curiosity leaning in. Where am I in those 4 kingdoms I heard about? And create our day from that space. Thank you. And now we do what we do here. We are going to turn all of this into a spiritual mind treatment. I'm going to invite all of the practitioners, the ministers, and the practitioners in training to find a place in the sanctuary online to perhaps stand and hold this container of love, this container of deep knowingness with me. The realization that we are all one. Wherever we find ourselves on that upward journey, close to source or a little bit away from it, let us affirm together that we are whole, perfect, and complete, that we are loved beyond measure, that we are one in the one. And as I know that this is the truth of not just myself, it's the truth of everybody within the sound of my voice, for all people everywhere, I speak a word of clarification. That each beloved who has reached out to our ministry of prayer, that each beloved who has a challenge on their heart, that feels confused, challenged, find the answers within them of what their next divine inspired action is. I speak a word of blessing to all of the beloveds who find themselves in health crises. They realize that the divine is right where they are. How grateful I am, how very, very grateful I am to know the power of this teaching, the truth, that the consciousness of wholeness is what brings forth the healing. Thank you, life, and so it is.